Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to read 4 new releases. So this is going to be a reading vlog of me reading 4 new releases, 2 of which were released in February and 2 were released in March, so they're pretty new. Let's talk about them in order of release. Bride by Hazelwood, which came out on February 6th. A Love Song for Ricky Wilde, which also came out on February 6th. This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan, which came out on March 5th. And finally, If You Hate Me by Helena Hunting. So let's cut to the vlog. The first book I will be reading is going to be Bride. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And I really want to thank you so much for watching in advance. So I started Bride by Hazelwood and I'm flying through it. I am on page 251, so I'm over halfway through. And this is so good. Like this is everything that I love and more. So those of you who don't know, this is a werewolf vampire romance. You follow Misery, and this is told in single point of view, but every chapter has a snippet of the hero's point of view, which I love that as well. So Misery is a vampire, and in this world, vampires, humans, and werewolves, they know about each other, but they're technically mortal enemies, especially the werewolves with the humans and the vampires. The humans and vampires have had this reluctant truce going on, and basically that truce is held in place by leaving a vampire child in human territory and having a human child in vampire territory. And Misery used to be said child. Like she lived 10 years with the humans, and because she felt like she never really fit in with the vampires, because she lived so long with the humans, she's been living with humans ever since. And she has a best friend who's human. Like she's basically her sister. They grew up together. And one day her sister is gone and she's trying to find her. Around that time, her father wants her to marry a werewolf because they also want to have an alliance. She doesn't want to do that until she realizes that the alpha may have something to do with the disappearance of her friend. So she agrees and they end up getting married, which this is all in like the first 2 chapters. So she goes and lives with the alpha and his clan, and he has a little sister who's like the cutest little girl in the world. I really love her. Her name is Anna, and she's so adorable. And I really, really love Misery. Like she is so hilarious. Like I laughed out loud a lot of times throughout this book. I thought that she was such a great character. I love her so much. And I really love Lo, who's the alpha. He's such a good guy. He's obviously a very good guy. I read Love Theoretically by her last year, and I really fell in love with the hero in that book more so than the heroine. This case, it's technically the reverse, even though I love Lo because he's a werewolf and werewolves are my favorite paranormal creature. But I also I feel like Misery is the one that really shines in this book. But yeah, this book has everything I love about werewolf romances as well. I love the clan. I love like the alphaness. I love that she even feels the need to submit to him, even though she's technically not of the same species. And I also love there's a scene in here where he has to mark her and has to put his scent all over her. And I died. I literally I almost died reading that. That was so hot and everything I love about werewolf romances. And of course it's an Hazelwood book, so of course our heroine is very smart heroine. Like she knows a lot about biology and about computers and stuff like that, and the hero is woefully ignorant about those things. Yeah, I am thoroughly enjoying myself. I already tabbed a lot, if you can see that. Yeah, I'm just living my best life. I really think that Allie shines in this book, and I obviously have not finished, so I don't know for sure, but I'm already intrigued by other characters in this book, so I really hope that this will be her first series. I really hope that this is not a one and done for her. I really want her to write more in this paranormal world. I'm really enjoying it. And what I also really like about this book is that the explanation for why they are human, why they are werewolves and vampires, I really enjoy, because that is one thing I loved about Shiver. I know Shiver is not a lot of people's favorite books, and I understand why, but I did love the fact that Maggie had an explanation for why they turn into werewolves. Even if it's bullshit, I just want I like that there's a biological explanation for something happening. Like if an author took the time to do that. And of course, Ali, it's not surprising to me that Ali would go that route. So yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I guess I'll just update you once I finish, but this will probably be a 5 stars. Unless something goes very, very wrong in the last 150 pages, I don't see this being anything less than 5 stars. So I just finished Bride, and I really loved it, as I knew that I would. I gave it 5 stars without a shadow of a doubt, and if this is not going to be a series, I'm going to riot, because I already want Owen's story and I want Serena's story. Serena's has been a little bit set up at the end, and I cannot wait. Yeah, the second half was just as good as the first half. I still loved everything about Lo and Misery, and I also really love Owen in this book. Even though we didn't get to see a lot of him, the things we did get, I really enjoyed. And like I said, hopefully you will get his story as well, which Owen is Misery's brother. I just love the werewolf lore in here and the vampire lore and everything about it. And I also loved, so obviously they do have sex eventually, and I did also enjoy that. This is Ali's smuttiest book so far, which it's not overly smutty, not like a lot of other books, but for her, usually she only has one sex scene and it's pretty mild. This has multiple. And I really enjoyed this book. I would highly recommend it. And I really hope that because of this book, it will spark some more like mainstream paranormal books. I just love paranormal romances. I do. I've always loved them. And I just feel like, I just hope more authors will be inspired to write it because of the success of this one. Because so far it hasn't even been out, like it has been out for about a month and it already has almost 100,000 ratings, which is amazing. But yeah, I enjoyed every single second reading this book. And like I said, I really loved Anna as well in here. Sometimes kids get annoying. She was perfect. I love how she mispronounced things, how she called her Miracy. She was just so adorable. I just wanted to take her home with me. I really loved it. And like the third act conflict in here, I thought was done great as well. Like it didn't bother me at all. So yeah, I would say definitely read this book if you haven't already. And this might be a good intro to you for like werewolf romances, like paranormal romances. If you've loved Ali Hazelwood books in the past, I think you'll really love this one. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. And yeah, like I said, I really hope that this will turn into a series, because I would just be the happiest camper in the world if that happened. And this book really reminded me that I need to read every single thing this woman has written, because so far I still have not read Love on the Brain. And I haven't read her newest book, Check and Mate, which is the young adult book, even though I have heard great things about it. And I still need to read Loath to Love You, which is the anthology with the 3 novellas under one roof, Stuck with You and Below Zero. So yeah, Ali Hazelwood has fast become one of my favorite authors. This is my third 5-star for her. If you've been debating whether or not you should pick this up, I would say go for it. It's not that long. And I would say that if you read like the first 100 pages, it will give you a good sense whether or not you'll like this book. Yeah, for me, the first 100 pages, it was pretty clear that I was gonna love these characters and that I was gonna love this book. So it is a good indication. And yeah, I'm very, very glad that I read this. The next book I'm planning on reading is either a love song for Ricky Wilde. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a love song for Ricky Wilde, because that is about a leap year. And since that just happened, like the leap day, I think I'm still in the leap day vibes, so I'm gonna start that one. And I guess I'll update you as usual once I'm halfway through. So I am about 136 pages into a love song for Ricky Wilde. So I read the first 9 chapters. So far, as much as I am loving it, like the writing is exquisite. Like Tia Williams has a beautiful writing style. Like the quotes in here, I'm just like, I am highlighting definitely, and I will definitely be rereading parts, like sentences of this book. Right now, it doesn't feel like romance, and I think at the end of the day, it's not gonna be a traditional romance. Not because I don't know if this is gonna end in an HEA, but also because I'm around 40% of the way through right now, and right around this time is when they finally have like a meaningful interaction, which in traditional romances, that happens way earlier. Anyway, let me go back and tell you what this is about. You follow Ricky Wilde, and she is the youngest daughter of this family, very prominent family, a very successful family, and she's the only one of her 3 sisters that is not successful. And in fact, I really love this quote when I read it in the synopsis, and it's also mentioned in the book. She's the opposite of her famous socialite sisters. Where there are long-stemmed roses, she's a dandelion, an adorable bloom that's actually a weed born to float wherever the wind blows. That is exactly what Ricky Wilde is. And that gives you a snippet of how beautiful the quotes are in this book. So her family owns a funeral parlor, and it's also expected of her to go into the funeral business, but she doesn't want to. So she ends up starting her own flower shop in Harlem. She's able to do that because she meets this older lady who's a widow, and she gives her a chance and rents out like the bottom part of her flat to her, and that's where she starts her flower shop. And there she meets this child actress named Tuesday, and it's basically them three. And then one day she goes out into a garden taking in the beautiful jasmine flowers when she realizes that the jasmine she's smelling, it's not supposed to flower at the time of year that she's there. And there she meets a handsome, mysterious stranger who, through circumstances, they keep running into each other. And he actually, in one of those meetings, he tells her that she needs to basically stay away from him, and she needs to leave Harlem if she knows what's good for her. It's basically like a warning to her. But then, like I said, they keep running into each other, and eventually, I'm assuming they cannot stay away. First of all, I am in love with this cover. This is such a beautiful, beautiful cover. This, I'm 100% sure, is gonna have a speculative element to it. That is a hard word for me to say, because this takes place in a leap year, and it takes place in this year's leap year. So there's gonna be some magical element to it. I already have a very strong suspicion about what's gonna happen. There is one chapter that takes place in the 1920s, and she keeps referencing the 1920s. The man that she's talking to may or may not be that man whose chapter we read from in the 1920s. Like I said, this does feel like more Ricky's story as opposed to a actual romance. And like I said, if it goes the way I'm thinking it's going, I don't see how this is gonna have an actual HCA. And like I said, usually with romances I love to read, I like for my couple to have met in the first 10, maybe 20% of the book, not around 40% of the book. And when I say meet, I'm talking about like actual have a conversation, them knowing each other. I am enjoying it while I'm reading it, but it is a slower book for me. I do feel like I find myself slowing down a little bit simply because, like I said, it's such a beautiful writing style. And this is, I don't think this is a book meant to binge your way through, but the writing is gorgeous, like I keep saying, and I am liking all the characters so far. I love Ricky, I love Tuesday, I love Della, who's like the grandmother figure, and I am liking Ezra too. So yeah, those are my thoughts so far. The chapters are pretty long, so that is also like with books with longer chapters, it usually takes me a while to get through them, but I'm hoping to finish it tomorrow, but I also have to work tomorrow, so we shall see. And I think tomorrow's, well, no, that's not true. I was gonna say, I think tomorrow it's gonna be a long day at work, but maybe not. But I guess you'll just see me in the next clip and you'll know my final thoughts on A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. So I'm here to give you my final thoughts on A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. So I actually finished it 3 days ago, and I kind of wanted to sit with my thoughts a little bit, but I ended up giving this 5 stars. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful book. And also a beautiful romance. I know I told you in my update that I was debating whether or not this was a romance. I do think it was a romance in the end, but it's not. Like, it's more like literary fiction romance. Even though that is not normally the type of romances that I love to read, I thought this was beautiful. Like, I love it. I love the magical realism part in here, like the whole paranormal bit in here. I thought it was beautiful. I really love the story. And like I said, I struggled a little bit in the beginning. I thought that part could have been cut down a bit. I wanted them to meet a little bit earlier. There were some things about Ricky and her story before she met Ezra that just was not necessary. And I don't think at the end of the day it needed to be that flushed out at the beginning. It was fine. Like the same plot beats she could have kept in. She could have gone through it a little bit quicker. Like, I didn't need all this backstory about her meeting Ollie and her like brief relationship with him. That was, at the end of the day, that was not necessary at all, because he was a vehicle to getting her to meeting Ezra. So yeah, anyway, I would say like the beginning was the weaker part. Like, having said all that, it was still like the writing was still beautiful. I just feel like, because there were scenes, I feel like either it should have been cut down or she should have filled it in with other scenes. Because one of the things that I did love, that I did wish we got more of, is the scenes in the 1920s. I would have loved more of those scenes. So if you were gonna give me interactions and part of the story that is not part of the actual romance, then then I would have preferred the historical fiction side, like the more like the scene set in the 1920s. So yeah, it did take me a while to fall in love with this book, but in the end I definitely did, but it just took me a while. These two definitely felt like soulmates. I truly understood why they fell in love with each other so much. I thought it was just a beautiful romance, and I also love the mix between a contemporary setting but also glimpses of the historical one. I really love that. At the beginning I wasn't really sure about getting different point of views other than the main couple, but like once again I ended up loving that by the end. I have to say, if you really love books like Addie LaRue, but also if you love The 7 Year Slip or Divine Rivals, you might like this book. I don't know, it just reminded me of those books where it's mainly set in a contemporary setting or in like a different genre, but it has hints of magic in it. So I truly think that if you love those books, you're gonna love A Love Song for Ricky Wilde as well. Yeah, I really loved it, and I loved actually reading it around the time of the leap day. That's not really necessary, but I did. It just added to the magic of it all. I would say definitely pick it up. It was 5 stars. I would highly recommend it. If you just want a book that has beautiful quotes, then definitely pick this one up. I thought it was a great new release. I am currently reading If You Hate Me by Helena Hunting, which came out on March 7th. I started it yesterday evening before I went to sleep, and I'm already on page 256 because I am obsessed with this book. So this is the first book in her new hockey series, which, for those of you who don't know, I actually read my first Helena Hunting in the beginning of the year, and it was Pucked, and that hero's name is Alex Waters, who I fell in love with. And what was really funny is he was actually mentioned in this book. His milk ad, his infamous milk ad, was mentioned, so that was funny too. Well, I like that. I like seeing that. Anyway, so this is her new hockey romance series. You follow Tristan and Beatrix. She goes by B or Trix. He's her brother's best friend, and she recently both lost her job and lost her apartment because she had some crazy roommates who kept asking her for threesomes, which she kept declining. She was also not really treated well at her job, so she just walked away from both, and now she needs a place to stay. And since her brother is a professional hockey player, she asks him if she can stay at his place, but he lives with his best friend, who she hates because when she was a teenager, she had a crush on her brother's best friend, and he always told her that she was annoying and that she needed to beat it, and that's his nickname for her is Beat. He doesn't want her there because, first of all, she's a woman now and he's attracted to that, but also he's used to always taking care of everybody else because when he grew up, his mother left his family when he was 12, and his father was working all the time, so he basically had to take care of his 2 younger brothers. And now that he's out on his own, he even though he still obviously cares about his family and he still feels responsible for them, he doesn't want like to add another responsibility to the plate. So they keep getting into fights, they antagonize each other. He's being a major giant douchebag to her all the time, and eventually it leads to them hate fucking, and they keep doing that. But obviously, since they are living with her brother, they have to keep that a secret from him. And I am eating this shit up. This is my catnip. I am loving it so much. I always love it in books where there's a hate to love, where they're actually having sex while they're still hating each other. I love that so much. That's one of the reasons why I really loved Twisted Hate so much. And some people might take issue with this hero because he can be really, really mean, and some things he says to her are like like, what the fuck? What the fuck did you just say? Like, literally that. But that is like, even though red flags all around, I like that. And especially once he softens for her. See, this is just like the road to bad intentions, because once he softens for her, I melted. Like, Be Still My Beating Heart. This is like, I love this man. I really like him. Even though, like I said, I don't know if this hero is for everybody, but he's definitely for me, like very much. And I do have to say, although I don't remember in Pucked, they did have a lot of sex because she was obsessed with his giant dick. So I guess that's par for the course for Helena Hunting. But this book does have like a lot of smut, which, like I said, I don't mind. But maybe some people will think it's overkill. I don't think it's overkill. I'm enjoying every single second of this book. But I do have to say, this book is 448 pages. Right now, like I said, I'm on page 256. So almost at the 60% mark. And right now, I'm like, okay, can we wrap this shit up a little bit? Like, everything I've read so far up to this point, I have thoroughly enjoyed. But I'm just like thinking about, okay, so there's still like almost 200 pages left. What is gonna happen? Like, I'm kind of dreading a little bit the next half of this book because what else is she gonna write about? So that, I know, right now it feels like a 5, but the last half, things could turn around. I don't think this is gonna get any less than a 4 from me. Let me actually see how long Pucked was. And I do have to say, I am really liking Helena Hunting. Like, so far, the 2 books I've read by her, I've both given them 5 stars. I really love them. Yeah, so Pucked was 380 pages. Yeah, I feel like that is more a normal page length for a book like this because, like I said, so there are obstacles, obviously, because they're keeping the secret from her brother. They're both dealing with traumas from their childhood. Like I said, I already explained his. Both her and her brother, they grew up pretty poor. So they both deal with that. Like, that manifests in different ways. For her brother, it's that he constantly still doesn't want to spend a lot of money. And he's afraid that he's not going to have enough money, even though he makes millions. And she has like food insecurity. She gets irrationally upset if somebody eats her food, mainly Tristan. Yeah, but still, like, those things, I don't know how you can fill 200 pages worth of that. And obviously there's going to be a third act conflict because, I mean, that's par for the course. But I don't know. We'll see. Also, they made the sex deal that this was going to be for sex. And once she moves out, everything stops. But Tristan is catching feelings, so he wants to renege on that deal. So that's also like... The thing is, so she wants to look for apartments. And every time she finds one, either him, Tristan, or her brother shoot her down and tell her like, no, that's in a bad neighborhood. That's in a bad neighborhood. So Tristan obviously wants her there because the deal is that they can have sex as long as she's still living there. And her brother wants to keep her around because like she basically does everything for them. Like she cooks, she cleans, she even does his finances. She's an accountant. Also, one thing, so there's a lot of names that are similar, not like in the team and the entourage, I guess. So there's Hammer, Hammy, Hollis. So the side characters, even though I'm pretty sure almost all the side characters that have been introduced will get their own romances, I cannot really tell them apart that much, so that's another thing. I didn't realize that she was going to publish this, so I'm very glad that I picked it up as soon as possible, and I am also very interested to see what other people think of this book. So far, it has a 4.43 average rating with only 619 ratings, so 57% have given it 5 stars, and 32% have given it 4 stars, and honestly, I really want to read all of Helena Hunting's backlist, but that's gonna take me a while because she's a pretty prolific author. I actually have a video that I'm planning that I definitely want to read one of her older books for. Oh my god, her birthday is on August 22nd? That is my birthday. Birthday twins, hey! Maybe that is why I love her book so much. I love her heroines especially. I really loved Violet in Pucked, and I'm really loving Trix as well, so... That's funny. Anyway, that was on a whole other tangent. You will see me again. If there is a point where I do feel it's too long, I will update, and otherwise I'll just tell you my thoughts at the end of the book. So excuse the mess of the bookshelves behind me and look at that pile. I just filmed my unhaul video, so there's that. So it's a mess. I need to clean it up, but I cannot find the motivation to do so. I'm here to give you my final review for If You Hate Me by Helena Hunting. I end up giving this 5 stars. I truly enjoyed it. I do have to say, before I get started, I do think that this book is not for everybody. I truly think that. So I am going to tell you things that might bother you, but this was definitely for me. I loved it. I think Helena Hunting might be one of my favorite authors because so far I've read 2 of her books and I've loved them so much. And what is interesting about her is that I really love the main heroines. Not that I normally don't, but with both this book and Pucked, I fell in love with the heroines just as much as I did the heroes, which usually that doesn't really happen. Like I 100%, like I fall in love with the heroes first and foremost. I finished this book in 3 days, but that is because I read like 2 chapters in one day and then fell asleep and then went to sleep. And then I finished it in like 1.5 days. This is like almost 500 pages. And usually I read those in like 3 full days. This time it was like if you look at it in hours, like I read it in like a day and a half, like especially on the second day. I read 326 pages just of this book. And like normally my page count sits around 200. So I read 120 more pages than I normally would of this book because I loved it so much. Loved it so much. I really, like I said, I really love the heroine and I did enjoy the hero, even though he had some issues, a lot of issues. Like he was kind of a dick, which I'm going to caution you, he can get really mean. So if you don't like that, then steer clear. I don't know. I just felt like he had reasonings. And I do think that the heroine forgave him way too soon. So those things might bother you. And this not only had a 3rd act breakup, it had a 4th act breakup. So they broke up like twice in this book. So once again, like I think those 3 things may not be for everybody. So if you know that you're not going to like that, then maybe steer clear. But I didn't mind them. Even though I don't really love a 3rd act breakup, it made sense for this book because of who this hero is. He has some really big hangups. His mom left him when he was 12 and therefore he thinks that people just leave him all the time. So when the heroine makes moves to leave him, like there's a scene where she wanted to move out and he became really mean. Also, he just has issues with his feelings. Also because of everything his mom did. He's like a repressed hero, very repressed, and that has effect on everything. It's like on their relationship when they are together, on their friends with benefits thing, when they're just having sex, with him pulling away when he starts feeling things. Okay, so the smut scenes in here were 10 out of 10. This was 4 as far as like on a spice scale, if I had one, which I did. I do have one. I just started my Instagram. Well, I mean, I had it, but I just started posting on it and I put chili peppers in there as well. And this one definitely has 4 chili peppers. There's a lot of smut scenes and they're very creative. So some might say a little bit too much, but I'm not going to say that because I definitely did enjoy it. This book is, 440 pages. Did it need to be that long? I don't think so. But like I said, I did enjoy my time. I was thoroughly entertained throughout this entire book. I kept flipping the pages because I was enjoying it so much. So therefore, I don't think it was too long. But yeah, like I said, I truly enjoyed it. If you don't like a really mean hero, he's not mean, but he can be mean. Like if he lashes out, he becomes really mean. And if you don't like 3rd act breakups or 4th act breakups, and if you don't like a heroine that forgives way too easily, then this might not be for you. But normally, like for example, her forgiving him way too easily, they have known each other for almost her entire life. So it does make sense that since she knows where he's coming from, why he's lashing out. Still not okay for him to do that, but I guess I was convinced. I don't know. I think in her position, I would too. Anyway, yeah, like I said, 5 out of 5 and definitely a favorite book of the year so far. I'm currently reading This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. I'm on page 182. I cannot find a good way to hold my phone. Let me do this. Okay. Once again, excuse the mess, like my life messy. Okay, so This Could Be Us follows Soledad. I don't know how to pronounce that. And Josiah, right? Or Judah. I think Josiah was the hero in the first book. Anyway, I've not read the first book. This is my first full-length Kennedy Ryan. Soledad is married to this man who is, from the beginning, it's obvious to the reader that he's 100% cheating on her. And then she finds out that he has been embezzling. And the person who discovered his criminal activity is Judah. So her husband hates Judah, and therefore one of her daughters also doesn't like him. But once she finds out what her husband did and how much he betrayed her, she helps Judah and like the company he embezzled money from and the FBI to give them like information about her husband. And that is all part one. And while she's still married to her husband, she actually meets Judah, and they already have a big attraction to each other, but obviously nothing happens because she's still married and she doesn't know what her husband did yet. Then fast forward 8 months, she's divorced her husband, and now she's a social media influencer because she needs a way to make money, but she still wants to be there for her daughters. I don't know why she doesn't want a different full-time job. I'm pretty sure it's because this is her passion. Like, she loves cooking, cleaning, stuff like that. So her and her friends, like her friends help her. One of her friends is a like social media influencer manager. They convince her to do that as a like profession, to become an influencer. So she does. It's difficult, but she's managing. Judah, in the meantime, he is still crushing on her, and he actually follows her on social media. And he wants to take her out, but she wants to self-date. She wants to date herself. She wants to love herself because she's been with her husband 20 years. And she realizes that he was a narcissist, and she just wants to love herself first before she's willing to date somebody else. Also, I forgot to mention, Judah has 2 autistic sons. They're twins. So that is also like a big part of his life. His life revolves around his sons. So he has an ex-wife, but they are like their best friends. They are very amicable, and they need each other to raise Adam and Aaron, which I love those 2 names. If I ever have sons, I think those 2 are very high up on my list of names I like for boys. Okay, so I actually just watched Jen's weekly wrap up, and she calls this a woman's fiction, and I am inclined to agree. So far, I've never read a full-length Kennedy Ryan romance, so I cannot compare it to anything, not like she did, but this does definitely feel women's fiction to me. It's obviously Soledad's story. It's obviously her trying to get her life back together after her husband betrayed her in the worst ways. And Josiah, I keep calling him Josiah. Judah really does seem to have his life in order. Not that she doesn't, but she needs to figure out her new identity, but also she is struggling financially, and she is in a bind. Like, is she going to change her life and her daughter's life, or try to make as much money as she can so their lives can stay the same? I am loving this writing though. Like, Kennedy Ryan is has some beautiful lines, and I knew this because I heard so many good things about her stories. So far, I am enjoying it. I don't know what the rating will be, so I guess we'll see. After this book, I mean, obviously I want to read the first book too, but I really want to make an effort to read more Kennedy Ryan this year. And one of them is actually, the Grip trilogy is is recommended over 150 times. So I 100% will be getting to that one. But I also really want to read Real and Kingmaker. Both of those have been recommended over 100 times. So I'm very much looking forward to reading more Kennedy Ryan. As I said, so far I am liking it. The chapters are short, which means I fly through it. But so far, I don't have my thoughts fully solidified yet. So I guess you'll just have to wait for me to finish it for my final updates. I am liking her friends, though. I know Yasmin has the first book, and I am interested to read that. Obviously, I started the series. I will read the first book. And then Hendrix will have a book in 2025. So there's still a while there. Yeah, I actually like the discussion of I keep calling him Josiah, Judah. I really like the discussion Judah has with the reader, because obviously his sons are autistic and they're Black as well. So what he did to ensure that law enforcement and firemen know his son, so that once there is an emergency, they know that they're not a threat. This sucks, and it's sad that that is life, but it is, so you have to adjust to that. The discussion of him, one of his sons, he knows that there's a high probability that he has to take care of his son for the rest of his life, and not just his life, his son's life. Like, I like how that is thought about. I love that. And it's Kennedy Ryan, actually, the author's note, I do suggest you read that before you start, because she actually has a son on the autism spectrum. So I think it's clear when you read it that this is personal to her, and that these probably are things that she has had to think about. So I always love that when authors put something so personal in the story, because it makes me connect to it as a reader, because it does feel like it comes from a genuine place. And yeah, this is the last book for this vlog. And so far they have all been 5 stars. So if this is also a 5 stars, then that is a 5 star streak for new releases. So that would be wonderful. But yeah, I'll talk to you later. So I just finished This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. And unfortunately, it's a 3.5 stars for me. It would have been 3 stars if it wasn't for the writing style, because she is an amazing author. Her quotes are beautiful, and I can definitely see myself giving her other books 5 stars. This just was not for me. I am primarily a romance reader. I love romance. I love romance so much. And what I'm not is a women's fiction reader. It's just not really my type of genre. And this is 100% a women's fiction. You cannot convince me otherwise. This was 100% Soul's story. And even though Adam did have his own point of views, they were, first of all, they were less than hers, which normally I wouldn't mind. But in this case, I don't know, even his, like, this whole book revolved around her. Like, her chapters revolved around her, and his chapters revolved around her too. And nowhere in there was there anything about him. Like, he always had to acquiesce to her, which makes sense because it's obviously her story, but that made this just not, like, it didn't make the romance that believable. To me, this was just lust based. Like, they were very, very hot together, but every time they were together, it was mainly them having sex or them talking about her and what she needs to do to accomplish what she wants to do. There were never really scenes of them truly getting to know each other. I'm sure they did, but it was off page, which sucks because I want to see that. I'm the type of reader that, no, yes, obviously you guys know I love smutty scenes, but if I'm reading a romance, I want to believe in their romance. I want to be there with them, not just in the bedroom, but also outside of it when they get to know each other. And I didn't really feel like that happened in here. Like, even, and this is not a spoiler, but once they do finally get together, the quote at the end of that chapter perfectly described what I'm talking about. So this is in his point of view. It paints a goofy grin on my face. I know it does. I can feel how ridiculously happy it makes me appear, but I can't hold it back. And she says, I've never seen you look like this. And then he says, you've made me happy. You make me happy. In other words, they have been around each other for a year at that point, yet she's never seen him happy, I guess. Like, it was always lust, like I said, or him holding himself back for her. He obviously wanted to be with her, and she basically kept using him for sex, which, I mean, I know that is par for the course in usual romances where the man is like the fuckboy, which I'm not calling her that. Obviously, she had other priorities in her life, as she should. But yeah, sometimes we don't like those heroes. And in this case, I felt like she didn't treat him right, which, case in point, apparently she's never seen him happy, even though they have been having sex together. Like, I'm not saying she's a bad person, because obviously she's not. She's been through something horrific and she's just trying to figure her shit out again. But that is just not the type of books that I want to read. I did like them individually, especially Judah. I really, like, he was so swoony, but I just wish this was a little bit more balanced. And I'm not saying that it needed to be 50-50, but at least like 70-30. Like, this was like 90%. Like, okay, maybe not, but like 85% just about her. Whereas he had an interesting storyline. Like, it wasn't just about the romance. Like, I just wanted more of him being a dad, taking care of his 2 sons. We did get some of that, but I would have liked a little bit more balance. At the end of the day, 3.5, mainly because I didn't really believe in their romance and it's just not my type of genre. I'm not writing Kennedy Ryan off by any means. I know, like, a bunch of her books are very high up on my TBR, so the plan is to read at least one other series by her, but I also really want to read Real, so hopefully I can get around to that this year. I would say if you like women's fiction, then definitely pick it up because it is a good book. I can acknowledge that. It's just not for me, and that is fine. And I guess, yes, that was the end of the video. This unfortunately was my least favorite, which I wasn't expecting when I started this video, I just had very high hopes for Kennedy Ryan, and unfortunately this was just not a book for me. What was my favorite? That is difficult because the other three I did give 5 stars, and I really loved them, all for different reasons. So yeah, honestly, I would say I would recommend all of them in different ways. I did enjoy mostly everything I read, so I will have all of the books linked for you, so definitely check them out. I really want to thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.